topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston. Welcome to the Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the top experts in the fields of health, legal, financial, and home improvement. I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I was just telling our first expert, the only problem is it's never long enough. But hey, we're moving forward, and we have got such a great show today. I am so excited. You know, I've been doing this for 12 years now. We are in 15 markets. That's a lot of shows just on a weekly basis. And once in a while, you run into somebody, an expert, that you go, this guy would make the best, professor in his field. And he is so knowledgeable. And when you can bring both those together, God, you've got a winning ticket. So I'd like to introduce you to, I love doing this show. And we talk about anywhere from stop snoring to dental implants, or as today, we're going to be talking about the dreaded TMJ. Let me welcome Dr. John Van Slate.
Hey, Steve-O, how are you? Thank you for
buddy.
that.
How are you? I love doing the show with you.
Well, good. I do too.
You've got such a dynamic personality, and what I meant was there are actually, I hate to say, I've got some experts that sometimes you got to shake me to wake me up, but you handle dental implants, stop snoring. Today we're talking about TMJ. Boy, you got to keep somebody's attention. Yeah. And you sure do it on this show. John, tell everybody about your practice.
Well, I'm a general dentist. I do my emphasis really is on high-end cosmetic stuff. We do a lot of that, and of course I do a lot of TMJ. I've really dedicated myself to a lot of the TMJ, big part of my practice for the past 20 years, and then we do a lot of sleep stuff and restore a lot of implants. So we really do a lot in our practice.
What makes TMJ so painful?
Well, I guess the thing that you want to realize with TMJ is that TMJ is short for temporomandibular joint. It's this joint that you have right here, right in front of the ear. And the interesting thing about this is when you have TMJ pain, it's usually a self-diagnosable situation because people know they have it because they'll have pain around the ears. They'll have pain in the face right here. They'll get these band headaches, these tension headaches that are really regular. The ear, because it's right in front of the TMJ joint, you'll have a stuffy ear, a ringing in the ear that's prevalent. You might feel dizzy. And of course, you know about the pops or clicks. As you open and close, you may hear your jaws popping or clicking. And so if people have this, I mean, there's a good chance that they have some type of stage of TMJ issues going on.
Well, including my girlfriend, we've actually had 4 people write us when they found out what the topic of the show is today. People who actually, and I see it with my girlfriend, when her TMJ acts up, it is really painful. It really,
she knows
painful.
When it is.
Yes. So we got some really serious people watching today. How long, John, have you been in practice?
I've been in practice for about 34 years, believe it or not. I've been doing it a long time, and I love it.
if you're watching on our TV version, he doesn't look like he could be practicing that long. Um, I've got so many questions about TMJ. John, how do you know? Like, how does a person know if they have TMJ issues with their jaw?
Well, Steve, we were just kind of talking a little bit about that, but I think what might be good is just going to the causes of TMJ might be a good place to start because, when you're talking about the jaw joint, just like any joint in the body, it doesn't like compression. So, if you have an upper jaw and a lower jaw, this would be compression when you have the bones going up against each other. And when that happens, you have a lot of nerves, blood vessels, muscles, ligaments. They don't like compression. So if the joint stays compressed, whether it's a hip, a knee, or whatever, if it's compressed, then you're going to have pain and you're going to get inflammation. And I think the best way to realize is that our muscles have a resting length. If you think of the muscle loving this length, if it stretches for a long period of time or shortens for a long period of time, we get inflammation or pain. And so where TMJ really comes in, there's probably two ways that we look at TMJ. You could have an acute injury, Steve, where, those are usually people that get hit in the chin from either sports activity, a car wreck, okay, where they just cause trauma to the joint where they might have had a comfortable joint before. But by far, the most common thing that I see is those chronic issues where people have a habit like clenching or grinding their teeth, where they're just putting a lot of stress on the joint. And, in this world that we live in today, I think I'm seeing more people, for whatever reason, with more stress and anxiety than I've ever seen, and people clench and grind as a result. And so we see a lot of that. People concentrating, people driving in traffic. There's a lot of things that cause that. Another couple of big things that also we got to really consider with jaws is that people with a deep bite, Steve. And what I mean by deep bite, if you look in the mirror and you see your front teeth coming together, if you look and you see the upper front teeth, then that's not too much of a deep bite. But as you see the less of your lower teeth, that's a deep bite. Those people are more prone to jaw problems because the jaw gets locked in behind their upper front teeth. And so lots of factors are at play with TMJ that people don't realize, and they just live with these things.
How do you go about treating TMJ, John?
Well, I tell you what's really interesting that I do in our practice, it might be a little different, is that first, like I said, I've been doing this for about 20 years. I believe in a very conservative approach to this. And what I mean by that is I can probably count on my hand, Steve, the last time over the last 10 years where I've had to refer somebody for surgery. Sometimes that happens, but it's rare. We always treat it conservatively first. But the key for treating it is keeping the joint decompressed. You don't want compression in a joint. You want to have room for the joint to move around. And remember, it's a ball and socket joint. So you have an upper jaw that doesn't move. You have a lower jaw that kind of moves in and out like this, right? So the key to treatment is keeping decompression, right? So what I do is I actually have computer software that I can use that shows me now objectively where the joint is at its optimal position and where the muscles are at rest.
Wow.
Yeah. So when I find that position, I can take an impression to make a very precise appliance that when you bite into it, I know that the joint's going to love it, but also the muscles are going to love that. And I think the big paradigm shift, people typically conventionally, we would always take impressions of the teeth and then we would make an appliance and say, hey, wear this appliance at night, call the bite guard. But one big paradigm shift that I have found treating this for a long time is that we're advocating two appliances, a daytime and a nighttime appliance, because what good is it if you only can decompress at night, not during the day? You can't get healing that way. So you really need an appliance at night that you can wear that no matter how you're sleeping, side, back, stomach, your joint is always going to be held in a nice, comfortable position for healing. And then during the day, you want to have something you can put in. And I usually make my appliances on the lower teeth so that you can, they're cosmetically appealing. You can talk better, and they function better that way. But that's what I'm doing. I mean, I'm using two appliances, and I'm using the computer software now to really treat this stuff.
Well, my girlfriend also says that she gets this popping and clicking noises.
Yes.
What's causing that?
Well, think about this, Steve. I want to try to keep this as layman terms as possible. Remember how we were talking about you have the upper jaw is like a faucet, the lower jaw. So it's a ball and socket joint, the TMJ joint is. And that joint needs to come in
Yes.
and out very freely, okay? Well, on the lower joint, we have something called an articular disc that just sits right on the joint. And what that articular disc is, it serves as a cushion between the jaw bones, okay? Well, if the joint compresses a lot and there's not room for this disc to stay in its proper position, it will actually fall in front of the joint. As that happens, you can imagine. So we close our teeth together, it clicks. As you open, it clicks again, clicks back. So it's that disc that is clicking on and off the joint. So that's what causes the clicking to happen. And it happens when the joint decompresses. And so it's for me as a clinician, it's easier to fix as somebody closes. If you hear the click closer to where the teeth come together, those are the easy ones to fix with TMJ, just so people will know that.
So, well, one good thing is it can be fixed. That's one good thing.
Yes.
When person has TMJ, I just got this. Does that affect snoring at all?
That is a great question, Steve, because yes, the short answer to that is yes. When we talk about allergies, okay, when people can't breathe through the nose for whatever reason, it can be a deviated septum, but if somebody is not breathing through their nose, they have to breathe through their mouth, right? They become mouth breathers. And when we breathe, we should breathe with our lips closed, and our tongue should be in the roof of the mouth, and we should breathe through our nose comfortably. Now, when we can't do that and we become a mouth breather, okay, we're more prone to snoring and apnea because we're doing that all night long, right? We're just sitting like this and breathing through the nap. So what happens is, because the jaw isn't in its comfortable position with the lips together, it stays down and forward, which stretches the muscles, which causes the tension in the joint. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle. But we see TMJ and sleep issues all the time. That's kind of how I got into it. With sleep, it is just a natural thing because you see it so many times. You got to treat both to really help people.
Wow. Somebody just wrote, let me see. Is there anything I could do at home to keep myself from having TMJ?
Well, sure. I would just urge anybody out there, if you are having the symptoms we had talked about, it's very important you get that treated and not wait, because time, it's a chronic issue that only gets worse, basically. But yes, if you're going through a particular hard time with your jaw joint, what I tell everybody is you can, if it's an acute injury like an accident, it's best to go with cold packs, 10 minutes on, 10 minutes one side like this, okay? But for everybody else, if it's just your chronic everyday issues, you want to use heat. You want to use a warm compress for 10 minutes on. It can be a warm washcloth that you put in a microwave. It can be a heating pad. Anti-inflammatories, Aleve and Advil probably work better than anything. And, and then I tell people soft foods, Steve. You want to go soft foods. You don't want to stay away from chewing gum. And also, this might be a real interesting part. I stay away from narcotics and sleeping pills as much as possible. Because it only masks the problem. It doesn't fix the problem. Botox, same thing. Botox helps temporarily, but it's just masking the real problem. It'll help the pain for a short period of time, but it does not fix it.
It's funny. Somebody just wrote, do you also do Botox?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a place for it in those, in those really painful situations. There's a place for it, but it's not a long-term treatment for it.
John, is there swelling involved with TMJ?
Well, sure, there can be. Think about it, Steve. I mean, we're talking about swelling and inflammation in the joint. So sometimes you will see a redness and a swelling here on the sides, but not all the time. It doesn't mean you have to have swelling to have TMJ, but I do see that.
John, I'm going to say, and I got to be careful how I say this. There's a lot of dentists out there that see a new revenue stream, and they basically just stick a sign up there saying that you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, sure.
You've been doing this for a long time, and what do you attribute your, especially with TMJ, what do you attribute your success in?
Well, first of all, I mean, you got to get training in this. I mean, I've always dedicated a lot of stuff. It's just like anything else. The great thing about being in dentistry is you can reinvent yourself many times over. And so I spent a lot of time learning about this and how to treat it. Went to some great places for learning, and you just take it back and you start really helping people with the information. But yeah, I know there's a lot of people just like, everybody became a cosmetic dentist, and
Yes.
that involves a lot of training too. So, but with TMJ, really there was a lot that learning went into this with me and my staff to really get to the point where we can help people very confidently and very successfully. And we just know that, conventional bite guards just doesn't do it probably half the time.
John, I see a lot of online commercials about appliances for TMJ. How does yours differ from the stuff you see online?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that question, Steve, because what I would say this is that number one, the appliance that we make, it has to be incredibly comfortable or nobody's going to wear it, right?
Right.
It's got to be. So that's why we find that position where the muscles are calm, where the joint is, is in an optimal place, and it's going to be comfortable. Number two, it's got to be hard. So a lot of these that people buy over the counter are soft. That could make things worse because you bite into it and it's just like chewing gum. You can actually make things worse with a soft bite guard. So never soft bite guards. You want it to cover all the teeth. I've seen some that just go into the front of the mouth, but you want all the teeth to be covered. And that's what gives the jaw joint stability. Okay. And then I think the biggest thing is that if I'm working so hard to find that position with my computer, I call it home base, where the muscles are at rest and the joint is decompressed. You want to have a home base that every time you bite into this appliance, it keeps you in that position. Flat appliances that you get over the counter don't do that. They're flat. They don't keep you or hold you in an ideal, unstressful position. So very important differences with this as opposed to what you can get in the store or a conventional bite guard for that matter.
I always try to think about if I was in the car listening to the show right now, and especially if I have TMJ or a friend or a family member who has it, try to think of questions that people might have. You use CT scan a lot, is that correct?
Oh yeah. Yeah, CT scan is invaluable because what I do, everybody that comes into my office gets a CT scan before we do anything. Because what I got to check for, cysts, tumors, infections. I got to make sure that there's, that's not wearing the joint. I look at the joint space. There may be a problem I can't fix with my appliances. I got to know that beforehand, right? And then then once I have whatever device that I've made, I put that in and take another CT scan to verify that it's helping the joint. So. Yeah, CT scans are pretty important for what we're doing in the TMJ world for sure. I wouldn't do it without it.
John, what question? I mean, sometimes TMJ just all of a sudden reacts on you. What would you ask a dentist to see how knowledgeable they are? Because I mean, I got to tell you, I've become so nervous. I'm here in Florida. I wish I was in Houston right now, but I get very nervous now when I've seen so many professionals just add their shingle.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean that they know what they're doing. Just means and there's a lot of people that the letters we get, people are very paranoid about that.
Yeah.
So what kind of questions would somebody ask so they would feel comfortable?
Steve, I can tell you this, as far as asking a question, not so sure exactly what would be asked, but I can tell you what I do. I mean, when a person comes to visit me with a TMJ issue, and of all the patients in my practice, I have got to spend more time with my TMJ patients, and it could be an hour talking with them, or an hour and a half sometimes, just talking with them about their pain level. We palpate the muscles. We've got to figure out what's the cause of this and if I can help them. So I guess a good way to answer that is you you've got to feel comfortable that the person is asking questions the right way and doing things that builds confidence that they know what they're doing for this. Because, it's not, and I would just say that in the TMJ world, just making a bite guard is not an ideal treatment for TMJ in the technology world that we're in now. I mean, there's better ways. And so that's really my advice. You just need to find out, are they just going to put a bite guard in? If that's the case, you might want to consider somewhere else that maybe somebody's doing this stuff.
Well, another thing that I think about, John, if people have missed part of the show or they want to go back and watch it, they can go to iHeart and go to Ask the Experts under TMJ, and your shows will come up. Great. So people can actually go back and listen to shows. But there was something that we got from somebody that when I guess they saw that we're going to be doing a show on TMJ, they wanted to know about not, you'll probably understand this more than I did, not being able to open their mouth very wide.
Sure.
What does that mean?
Well, Steve, I tell you what, we call that in the TMJ, you can be closed locked, which means that all of a sudden, you could open and you might have noticed some pops and clicks, and all of a sudden you can open about half as far as you're used to, and then you don't hear a pop or click anymore. That when that happens, it's really, really important that you see see somebody that can help you in the dental work as quick as possible, because what that means is, remember we were talking about that little disc on top of the jaw joint. Well, if that disc falls in front and now there's no room for it to get back where it's supposed to be, it locks the jaw in. Okay. And so what I do on those people when they come to see me, I'll put a TENS unit on to relax the head and neck muscles. I'll use an ultrasound for deep tissue massage, and we'll put moist heat. And then I need to manipulate that jaw back where it needs to be. We'll physically put it back. If you wait a long time, you can get something we call a pseudo disc, where you might never be able to get full mobility back. So the key with anybody who has a jaw that locks is, number one, go see somebody sooner than later. You don't want to wait, especially in these situations. Very important.
John, we got a couple minutes left. I always enjoy asking this question because you're so good at answering it. Tell me why I should use you, not only just for TMJ, but maybe in my cosmetic dentistry, dental implants. Why should I come to Dr. Van Slate?
Yeah, well, you know what? I think the best I can give right now is really experience, Steve. I've been doing cosmetic dentistry for 25 years. I've done lots of full mouth reconstruction cases, lots of just beautiful veneered cases. I've done really complex cases, and that just comes with experience. You got to do it, and you've got to believe in what you're doing. I've got a wonderful staff that is incredibly trained, and I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at right now, and I enjoy what I'm doing. So, it all comes into play.
Well, you've got a wonderful assistant with Sherry. She is always right on the ball. John, tell people how they can call and make an appointment as well, because we're showing it on the TV version, but I want people who are listening on radio right now, tell them how they can reach you, and also your website.
Sure, at 281-886-3164, and that's at drvanslate.com.
Very good. John, I can't wait till next month.
All right, Steve.
Have another show. Have a wonderful Christmas, John.
You too,
and
Steve.
Thank you for being part of our show. We're going to go to break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. Like I told you, today is just an incredible day. We just had Dr. Van Slate on, one of the top cosmetic dentists. And now our next show, which it's not the happiest of subjects, but you know what? If you have a problem, boy, I tell you what, it's so nice knowing that you have somebody who is out there in your corner. I want to introduce you to our expert, Logan Alec of Choice Tax Relief. Good morning, Logan.
Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing well. I'm excited to be on again.
Hey, you know what? We got a couple letters after you were on last time. I guess they knew it was your first time on, and they wanted me to relay to you what a great job you did, which I already knew that already. Um, I want to start off the show, and I also want to get it on there for our or I just went blank because someone wrote us about our show, but on our scroll, give everybody your phone number, Logan.
It is 866-6000-TAX. That's 866-6000-8299.
Okay, we got a bad connection here. Let me try it one more time. 866
866-8000-TAX, which is 866-8000-829.
829. Okay.
Sorry,
Hope
may I
Rebels.
interrupt for a moment? Logan, you sound like a robotic a little bit.
Okay, it said my mic was giving me some trouble. I'm gonna disconnect
It's staticky.
just use the laptop mic.
That's better.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. My USB mic was giving me some trouble, but I'll just use the
Okay,
laptop.
let's do the phone number one more time so Logan can get it up there on the screen. So Rebel can get it up there on the screen.
Yeah, it's 866-8000-829.
Okay, great. Well, anyway, you did such a great job last time you were on the show. And gosh, tax relief is not the greatest of subject, but you know what? We got to make the playing field a lot more level because the IRS is incredible negotiators and not for you, for them. Is that correct?
That's correct. And sometimes they hold all the cards because they're the ones that have the legal right to go in and start taking your stuff. They don't need to get a court order to do it. They can just say, we think you owe us this. Now we're going to drain your bank account. Now we're going to levy your wages. And if you're a business owner, they can even send notices to your customers saying, don't pay you, pay us. Because
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So, and that's that. And apart from not getting that cash flow from your customers on your accounts receivable, that can really, we've seen that ruin relationships between business owners and their customers, because in the customer's mind, they're thinking, well, gee, if they must be having trouble, if they're having tax problems with the IRS, do I really want to continue doing business with them, or should I look for another vendor? So the
Exactly.
IRS can really wreak havoc in people's lives, business owners' lives, and oftentimes, frankly, they do hold all the cards in those negotiations.
You know what I love about your practice, Logan, is you're also a CPA. And when somebody has not filed for taxes and the government comes in and does it for you,
Yeah.
you don't want them doing that. So you want to have someone who can go back and put your however many years you're behind, and you're able to do that.
Yes, that's exactly right. And yes, I am a CPA. Now, what some CPAs might do is just they'll prepare all those back tax returns you haven't filed, but sometimes that's actually not the best strategy. Sometimes we can talk to and negotiate with the IRS, kind of cut a deal and say, look, I mean, so and so hasn't filed in 20 years, but they've lost records, blah, blah, blah. Let's only file the last X number of years, make a deal on whatever he or she owes for those years and move forward. They're going to be a good compliant taxpayer going forward, but let's cut a deal here. And many taxpayers going to these negotiations, they don't know that they can even bring that up, that's even on the table. And some CPAs who don't specialize in tax relief, they just want the fees to file all those those decades of returns, when that might not be the right answer and puts you in the best spot. So there's a strategy to it. If the IRS does do SFRs for you, substitute for returns, that's when they go into your taxes for you. That, as you said, that is a terrible thing because they don't give you any deductions for your business.
Right.
So they're going to look at that gross 1099 that you got. If it says 300,000, they're going to say, well, guess you made 300,000 this year, even though you might have only netted 100 or 50 or 150 or something, right? They're not going to give you credit for your kids. If you're married, they're going to assume you're married filing separately, which is generally worse filing status. They're not going to give you any itemized deductions. They're going to force a standard deduction on you. You don't want to be in that spot. It is better to come clean and deal with the issue before the IRS takes that step of filing substitute returns for you.
You're going to be dealing with a lot of new agents, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. The IRS got a billions and billions of dollars through the American Rescue Plan Act that they're going to be allocating here over the next few years. We've already seen them ramp up the collection notices that were paused during COVID. During COVID, there's these standard notices that they've paused for years now. Now they got this new money. They got new personnel to work the cases. They're sending a lot of these collection notices out again. And frankly, our phone's just been really ringing off the hook because they're back in the swing of things when it comes to collections.
Logan, you and I talk about things that we want to talk about on the show, but somebody wrote me as they knew you were coming on today. Can you talk about some of the scams that are out there? Because it seems like a lot of people are getting scam notices,
right?
And they aren't even the IRS.
Yeah, and some of them look very good. A few years ago, they were like, my grandma could have told it was a scam. But now some of these things, these letters, and I'm in these groups, these Facebook groups, these other groups with tax professionals, where some even rookie tax professionals are posting a picture of these letters, these scam letters, and say, is this legit or is this not legit? What I would say to if you're not sure, don't assume it's legit. If you're not sure, reach out to a tax professional, hopefully someone who has experience with responding to IRS notices, a tax relief specific tax professional. Or if you don't want to go that route, call the IRS yourself, because you'd rather you'll be on the phone for maybe a couple hours, but better to be safe than sorry, because the scammers are getting really good. They're getting really smart. It's not always apparent that a piece of mail is a scam anymore. So,
we always, I know I do, always wonder like who's listening or watching the show. And from your last show, somebody actually went to iHeart's library and looked up your show and listened to it. And he said there wasn't anything on there about scams.
Oh, dang,
that was one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up, because I was like, you never know who's listening. I mean, here's a guy who went back to the library of iHeart, which is huge, just to hear your show. And he listened to the whole show. He said there was nothing on there about scams, but that's really good information because there's a lot of the older demographics out there that are really, would buy into, especially if they look so real, the letters that are coming in.
Yeah. So there's those outright scams, and then there's some aggressive marketing tactics that some fly-by-night tax relief shops use. I don't know if I would call those necessarily scams, but there's definitely aggressive marketing. They send a notice that looks like an official government notice. They say, call this number to deal with this issue. And it's not the number to the government, it's the number to their sales floor, right? I mean, I'm not naming anyone in particular, but my sentiment about that is like, look, if they're being aggressive with their marketing and maybe a little duplicitous with their marketing, chances are they're probably going to be a bit duplicitous with their sales tactics and all the way down the line. So I just wanted to mention that too.
How long have you been in practice, Logan?
It will be 14 years.
Okay, I want to tell people, share people, because this is our 12th year, and tax relief is very big in all of our markets. In fact, we just opened up in New York, and we've already had 6 people asking us about tax relief. But the question most of them had was about business. So when it comes to business, what kind of taxes did the IRS go after to a business owner?
So there's 3 main kind of taxes. One is the corporate income tax. If you have a C corporation, I know I'm using some lingo here, but hopefully business owners will understand what I'm saying. If you have a C corp,
I'm sure.
your corporation pays taxes in and of itself as an entity. So that's one thing they can go after your business for. They can also go after your personal income tax liability that's attributable to your business. So if you have that C corp, you can pay yourself dividends, or if you have if you have an S corp, and you pay some of that money to yourself as a W-2 and some as a distribution, that all flows through to your personal 1040. So they can go after your 1040 for taxes you owe on your business income. And they can also go after your payroll tax liability if you don't pay in those payroll taxes that you're supposed to withhold on behalf of your employees. Or if you do take the money out of your employee's paycheck, but you keep it for yourself to cover business cash flow rather than remitting it to the government. And the government takes that very, very seriously. So those are the 3 main kinds of taxes the IRS can go after business owners for. And they're very aggressive with business owners. There's an assumption that business owners are more sophisticated than the average taxpayer simply by the nature that they have a business. And so they're almost held to a higher standard in the eyes of IRS agents and revenue officers. So, yep.
That's pretty sad for a small business owner or someone who's just starting into business.
Yeah, and sometimes they get caught blindsided.
Yeah.
It's their first year of business. They don't know maybe they don't keep the best set of books. They're not taking the deduction that they're entitled to because they haven't kept track of them during the year. They're not making estimated tax payments. And so it can just start this cycle that can be very, very terrible. That results in the IRS basically coming in and essentially sometimes shutting the business down. They need a court order to do that, but that is one of the things the IRS does need a court order to do. But even before they get to that step, they can take all those other actions, collections action without a court order, levying business bank accounts, sending notices to your customers saying, hey, they owe us money, don't pay them, pay us. All those terrible tactics that the IRS has at its disposal to collect money from you.
I wanted to bring up about how long you've been in business for, because I see companies all over this, especially, just concentrating in the tax relief area. People can write about their experiences with that company. And what I noticed, what I love about your practice, you've been in practice for a long time. There's so many letters out there that people, once they paid, they never even heard back from the company. Well, those companies are out of business now.
Yeah.
They didn't last very long. They were looking for the quick buck. So
right.
I want to make sure, because listen, you don't want to take on the IRS yourself. Please trust me on this. And you can say the wrong thing, can't you, Logan? If you're trying to do this yourself.
You definitely can. The only time you want to deal with the IRS by yourself is if you have the means and are fully willing to pay them whatever they're asking for right this second. If that's the case, if you can pay them off right now, you probably don't need to talk to us. But if you can't pay everything they're asking, because they tell you the due date in the notice, and if you can't afford to pay that, whatever they're demanding within the next 30 days in full, you should talk to a professional. You don't want to deal with the IRS yourself.
Absolutely.
There are ways we can protect your income and assets.
And Logan, once they sign with you, they don't have to talk to the IRS anymore.
No, we take that on ourselves to deal with the IRS on our client's behalf. So they don't have to talk to that revenue officer anymore who's trying to use language to trick them into giving them information that they can then use against them. Because like you said, you can say the wrong thing and you can disclose too much.
Yes.
You can't lie to the IRS, but you don't have to tell them everything. And it's knowing what to tell them and sometimes when to tell them what, which is the key that could be the key to the case. And if
Hey,
you don't have,
Logan,
I'll go ahead.
how about that drawer that people put the unopened
Uh,
IRS envelopes in?
Yeah, I mean, we get, we work remotely with our clients in all 50 states. When we had an office, people would come in and dump them on our desk, and we go through them for them. Now we say, hey, you got a lot of IRS mail? Yeah, you could. If it's one or two, we ask them to scan them over to us. But if they don't even want to open it, we'll say, okay, mail them to
Yes,
us, and we'll
like it's
open.
going to
We'll go through
disappear.
them. We'll go through them for you, because sometimes there's just that fear and anxiety about it, of just opening the letter. And we hear that a lot because they're scared of what's in there. Sometimes that fear is frankly justified, but sometimes it's the problem is maybe not as bad as you're imagining in your head, but you'll never know unless you or someone else opens it for you.
We just got another text message. Actually, this is from Albany, New York. Enjoying the show. Is it expensive for your service?
We because we are a CPA firm, we do.
What's
We do.
expensive anyway?
Yeah. So what's expensive, right? I mean, I'll just tell you, we're not as expensive as some of these big shops who will charge you, $10,000 for a relatively straightforward case, and then you don't hear from them for months, right?
Because you're paying for their advertising.
Right. But I'll say, for our services, just with the level of service we provide, we're not bottom of the barrel prices either. I'd say we're not the most expensive, we're not the cheapest shop in town, but we believe we're fair. But yeah, it depends what expensive means.
Getting back to business, Logan, does it matter whether you have a LLC or a corporation or even a sole proprietor?
Right. So, what form of business you have will affect your tax filings, what the IRS expects from you from a compliance perspective. I know we haven't talked about the state very much, but what the state expects from you from a compliance perspective. So that's a very important decision that you have to make when you're starting your business. I will say that one area where it makes a difference that many CPAs and other tax professionals don't know it makes a difference is in the payroll arena. Because if you got behind your payroll taxes and you have a corporation or an LLC, sorry, and you have a corporation or an LLC, the government, and let's say that business shuts down, the government can only go after you personally for the amount of taxes that you withheld from your employee's paycheck and didn't pay. Not the business's share of payroll taxes. If you're a sole prop, you're liable for all of it, even if the business shuts down. So, sorry, I'm a bit under the weather. I've had this coughing episodes, and
we understand.
A little cold.
Trust me, yeah, we understand. It's really amazing that I want people to understand. You might have a friend in Phoenix, Arizona, let's say, and you know that they're having difficulties with the IRS. You can actually have them call Logan. He can handle. It does not matter what this. These are federal laws, and he can handle. It doesn't matter what city you're in. Is that correct, Logan?
That's correct. We work with the IRS. IRS is a national thing. We also represent taxpayers before their states. We have cases. I don't think we have active cases in all 50 states, but the majority of states right now, we have active cases where we're negotiating our clients before their state board of state taxation, their Department of Revenue. We also have clients around the world because a lot of people, they try to run away from the IRS. I move in, to Southeast Asia. We have a lot of clients in Southeast Asia, expats, things like that. And now they're trying to come back home and they find out that they can't renew their passport because they have tax issues. And we have to work through that. So all 50 states and around the world, for U.S. taxes, though, we don't represent people before foreign tax agencies, only before the IRS in the States.
Can the IRS go after you personally for business tax?
Generally, they don't, except in the case of those payroll taxes. So because the IRS takes payroll taxes very seriously, and it's the employee's share of payroll taxes they can go after you personally. Because if you think about it, you're an employee. Your employer withholds money from your paycheck. But if your employer doesn't remit that money to the government gets shafted twice, because they still have to give that employee credit for those taxes withheld on their tax return and for Social Security purposes. But that money was never deposited into the government's bank account. So those payroll taxes, the employee share of payroll taxes, the business failed to remit, those are called trust fund taxes. Even if the business shuts down, the government can still assess those trust fund taxes against responsible persons, such as the business owner, maybe even a bookkeeper even. We've seen that happen when they go after a bookkeeper. They can go after those folks for those trust fund taxes, and they can assess what's called the trust fund recovery penalty against them. And those can be that can be quite scary, because if you think about even a small business, those trust fund taxes can amount to high $6, even low $7-figure liability. And if the business is shut down, they don't have the money to pay it, and the IRS is going to be looming over their head for a long time. So, and a little trick here is, sometimes what we recommend folks is, okay, pay down the trust fund portion of the taxes before you shut down your business, and then let the other share of the business taxes die with the business, so you don't have any personal assessment. This probably might be getting a little too technical, but they can't. Bottom line, for certain taxes, the IRS can go after you personally.
We have a few more minutes. Can you tell everybody what a trust fund recovery penalty is?
So that is when the IRS goes against a responsible person, such as a business owner, personally, for the share, for the employee's share of Social Security, Medicare, and federal income tax withholding taxes that the business failed to remit. Corporate income tax, they're not going to go after you personally. If you don't give the government its due when it comes to the taxes you take out of your employee's paycheck, the IRS can go after you personally for that through the trust fund recovery penalty.
My final question, and you can be as humble as you want, but why should I use your firm, Logan?
Well, there's experience. I've been a practicing CPA in this field for 14 years, and this is what we specialize in. It's not like we do, tax planning, and we have a large, 1040 mil shop, and we do 401k audits. This is all we do. This is all myself and my staff do day in and day out, is represent taxpayers before the IRS. Also, we're transparent. A lot of these shops, they're anonymous.
Right.
You're right. You look them up. All their names are kind of the same. You go to the website, you can't find out who owns it. You even look at the Secretary of State website. It's owned by some LLC. That's owned by some corporation. That's owned by. We're transparent. I'm the owner. You can see our staff on our website. We have EAs, CPAs, former IRS revenue officers. So experience and transparency is how I would answer that question.
Let's give everybody your phone number again.
It is 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829.
And give them your website too.
It's Choice Tax Relief. If you'd like to book a consultation rather than calling us, there's a on the menu there, free consultation. Takes you to our calendar. You can book a time slot right then and there. I think we're filled up for the rest of the month, but I think we have some openings on December 1st and going forward.
Bro, I love doing the show with you. Such great information. Logan will be back with us again next month with more Ask the Experts. Logan, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. It's great talking to you again.
Same here. That he is so knowledgeable. That's it for us today. Thank you again. We'll be back with you again next week with more Ask the Experts. Thank you, Rebel. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.